This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. K-State grain economist Daniel O'Brien starts the show with his grain market outlook, where he discusses futures movement and pre-report production and yield expectations. Jason Warner, K-State Extension cow-calf specialist, keeps the show rolling as he previews what learning opportunities are available at the upcoming Crops and Cattle Conference. Concluding today's show is Chip Redmond, K-State meteorologist, as he explains how drought is looking in the state and if there are expectations of precipitation in the forecast. That and more is coming up ahead on Agriculture Today. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we conclude our Friday show with the grain market outlook from K-State grain economist Daniel O'Brien. Daniel, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Shelby.
Daniel, first taking a quick look at futures and then wanting to talk about some pre-report expectations. And so as we first take that look at futures, what movement are we seeing?
We've had our ups, and now we've had some downs this week. We have seen in the corn market for the September contract, which is what we're paying attention to, although the July is still around, but it's in its very last days in the delivery time frame. So we're not focusing on that so much. But for the September contract, closed yesterday for corn, 431.5, down 3.5 cents. We had gotten as high with that contract as 444.75, and now down just a little bit. I read this morning that true to the up and down nature of these markets here, when long positions made money on the way up, they take profits and they try to get their money back to a degree. So you've seen that happen in corn in particular. We'll talk about soybeans in a minute. And it is also interesting that in the midst of the volatility that we have seen basically for that same September contract, it got down to as low as 406.5. Again, jumped, as we just talked about, up to high of 444, closed yesterday at 431.5, and D's corn at 452 even. That I guess from a market watcher's perspective, we haven't dove to the basement yet with regard to prices. Still enough weather uncertainty, other issues going on. And by the way, corn exports still holding strong. For the most recent data as of July the 2nd, we had 72.4 million bushels shipped, need a pace in the last 8 weeks of the marketing year of about just under 64 million bushels. So doing great with regard to that. So we've seen some ups and downs and more prospects for dry weather or for weather volatility coming in the next several months. So as is so often this time of year, the person that's the most important to what you and I are talking about actually is our colleague Chip Redmond as he talks about the weather. So we'll see where all that goes. I would also say for soybeans, the August contract yesterday closed at 11.77 3/4. This week earlier, it had gotten as high as 12.04 and a quarter. Now down off of that, some had been as low back on June the 30th as 11.06. So a dollar swing up and down. But that's where we're at. And within about a week and a half time period, we've seen a dollar movement and not a lot of worry with regard to that. We'd also say for hard red winter wheat. Oh, and I should say also for soybeans, we had a pretty decent week of exports. And these aren't the gangbuster weeks that you had before the South American crops come available, but we did for the week ending July the 2nd have little over 21 million bushels of actual shipments, need a pace of about 15.5 through these last 8 weeks of the marketing year to actually meet the USDA's projection, which had already been shaved down quite a bit, opposite of the corn projection, which is record high and had been going higher. We'll see what happens in a few minutes here today with what the USDA does for that WASDE supply demand balance sheet. So anyway, still some decent pace. Ideas that China's come into the market, starting to buy some, so that's an important issue. And then for wheat, we had seen prices for hard red winter wheat with the September contract actually hold up pretty decently. We had been down as low again on the 30th was a low day for the markets, as low as 610 and three quarters. Had gotten up as high this week a couple of days ago on the 8th actually as 663 and a half, closed yesterday at 654 and a quarter. So interesting to see. Happened to have a week with not a lot of export movement. We're up and down on the with regard to actual export shipments. As of July the 2nd for that week, about 7.1 million bushels actually shipped that week. Need a pace of about just under 15. Meet the USDA's projection for this whole marketing year. So again, up and down. That follows last week, which was an exemplary week, especially for hard red winter. So it's just the way things are going right now in terms of wheat being available at different places in that world market amongst major exporters. So got all that type of price action yet coming in just a few minutes here at 11 o'clock Central Time with the USDA. It'd be a crop production report for what they are dealing with, which is mainly wheat for us right now, and the WASDE report, which will give us estimates of supply demand balance sheets and for both the U.S. and the world. And by the way, what we just had coming out of the on June the 30th with the acreage report and the grain stocks report will now be incorporated off into these balance sheets. So I guess I'd say quickly in the time we have left that the projection for corn and soybean production probably not going to change much. It'll be mainly an acreage change. Yields probably not going to change yet. That really doesn't start to happen until we first get a farmer survey in August and then a farmer and a USDA in the field survey in September. So I'd be really surprised personally if the USDA made any changes because they know they have these other changes just down the road. Corn production projected at 15.975 billion bushels. That'd be down about 20 million bushels from where we were in the June report. And again, that's an acreage differential. That's the average estimate from the trade. Corn yield 182.9, 183 basically. And for soybeans, projection of 4.459 billion bushels. That would be up about 24 million bushels from where we were in the June report. So and yields virtually unchanged, still at 53. So we incorporate the acreage changes, wait for the real wild card, which would be the yields. And again, that's as we just talked about, that's out in August, September, October, November. So that's where the volatility could come. And to kind of wrap that up then for old crop ending stocks for the 25-26 marketing year, that's a relevant issue still for corn and soybeans because marketing year doesn't finish up till August 31st. And pre-report estimates are for corn stocks to be down from the June number about 70 million bushels or so, down to 2.073 billion bushels. Soybean numbers down to 338 million bushels. That'd be virtually just slightly changed, slightly lower from where we were in June. So interesting. And then for new crop, I still think it's interesting to look at the uncertainty that still lies before us. So here, the last number we had from the USDA in June was for corn stocks for this marketing year, 2.145 billion bushels. Estimates in the WASDE report were for 1.96. WASDE report in June to be about just under 2 billion. Now we're coming in with the trade looking at the corn ending stocks for the 26-27 marketing year that the USDA is projecting down below 1.9 to 1.873. So we're shaving down the amount of ending stocks that we think we'll have, and that's part of what's providing support, I think, for the corn market. For the soybean market, you're kind of going in the other direction. Again, we projected the June number at for the 26-27 marketing year at 310 million bushels of soybeans, and now the market's anticipating about 20 million more. But again, I remember my dad telling me, and my college agronomy instructors telling me that we make corn in July, we make soybeans in August. So there's just a lot out there in terms of the reproductive process for soybeans that we're just barely getting close to. Corn, we're in it. This is when in a normal year we're pollinating and you have a lot of crop uncertainty. So heat coming in on this is some concern. That's what people are watching. There will also be, without question, attention given to what's happening in South America and Argentina and Brazil with regard to crop size. And right now, as the numbers are coming across, nobody in the trade, or very few in the trade, are really displaying a lot of worry about the size of those crops. And that's what they say by the numbers they put together. Yet you just listen to the market, you'll hear of rumors over here, rumors over there, something happening in different parts of Brazil in particular. So still remains to be seen how this is going to play out, and just thought-provoking to see what could happen. So in the report that's coming up, will this be a volatile report? Probably, you'd have to bet the average and think probably not, that the USDA would be pretty safe and not make a lot of changes. But if something were to occur, I don't think it's probably coming on the supply side for corn and soybeans. It's probably in the usage aspect of things. And if anything, it's probably more potential for the projected corn ending stocks for the 26-27 marketing year to be adjusted downward some, and maybe even a real surprise would be if in this current marketing year, the one ending August 31st, if the USDA made any major changes to any of those crops in that one. So we shall see where things go and whether we have a volatile second half of today or not.
Daniel, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Shelby.
That was K-State grain economist Daniel O'Brien. We're cutting to a short break now, but stick around because we have more for you up ahead. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we continue our show discussing the High Plains Journal Crops and Cattle Conference and Ag Expo with K-State Cow-Calf Extension Specialist Jason Warner. Jason, thanks for joining us today.
You bet, Shelby. Great to be on. Good to visit with you as always.
Jason, what is this Crops and Cattle Conference and Ag Expo?
Absolutely. So really just wanted to take the opportunity here today to highlight an upcoming educational event that will be coming up here in early August, so a little under a month from now. And that'll be the Crops and Cattle Conference and Ag Expo. And that is a program that really has historically been a program that has been led and put together primarily by our friends over with High Plains Journal, very widely recognized and widely distributed media organization out of Dodge City, and program that they've helped put together over the last several years. Our producers out there might resonate or be familiar with the brands Soil U, Cattle U, Producer U. The program's been under those names for the last a few years. But this year, the program is going to be held in Kansas City at the Kansas City Convention Center. And so it's essentially that same program that we've had for the last couple of years. Last year, if you recall, this program was held in Wichita and had a really nice blend of topics. And that's really the format again for this year for 2026. But really just a really nice educational program, a great opportunity for particularly our diversified producers in the region to be able to pick up some good, practical, very applied information that will fit their needs. And we've had a really nice attendance at these programs over the last several years and look forward to that again here this year in 2026.
What are some topics and speakers that have caught your eye that will be at this event?
Absolutely. So I just want to highlight a few presentations, a few sessions that will be offered for folks specific towards the beef cattle production side of things. And so the program kicks off on Tuesday, August 4th. And it goes through Thursday, August 6th. There's really a balance of topics and focus areas each day. So depending on what day of the week that it works best for attendees to come, They can pick up a balance of information there based on what their primary goals and objectives are and what they're hoping to gain from the program. On Tuesday afternoon, Dr. Jamie Curter from University of Missouri State Beef Extension genetics specialist there, and we'll be talking really about the concept and the idea of how we fit our forage resources to our genetic composition that we have within our cow herds. And so really looking at some newer models and some newer information that would be out there with regards to evaluating mature weight and size in beef cows and how we might match that, and some ideas for how we might go about making some selection decisions to help better match our cow herds to the environment. And then later on in the afternoon, Dr. Justin Smith from the Kansas Department of Agriculture, Division of Animal Health, will be giving an update on emerging threats from the animal health side, specific to the beef cattle industry and specific to our cow herds. And so I know that there'll be a lot of interest in that discussion. And then Dr. Twig Marston, former K-State extension specialist and beef nutritionist in the industry now, which many folks would be familiar with, does a great job. He'll be talking about some nutrition aspects and covering some fundamentals with cow-calf nutrition later on in the afternoon there at 4 o'clock. On Tuesday. So a really nice balance there for the program to start us off with there on Tuesday afternoon. And then as we work into Wednesday's program, again, we have a really nice balance of topics and information that will be presented there. One thing that's been unique with this program for the last couple of years is we've offered a beef quality assurance certification program for folks that want to be able to obtain that certification. And we know that that is so greatly important when we think about best management practices on our operations to help improve beef quality for the end user and for the consumer. So there's a tremendous amount of value in that. And anytime that we can offer those certification events, those are always really, really positive. Dr. Tim Parks with Merck Animal Health is going to lead that session this year for us, and that'll be at 9:30 on Wednesday morning. And then after that, I will be speaking at 11 a.m. And really the focus of my discussion that I'd like to have with attendees there that morning really be in the area of heifer development and heifer management, replacement heifer management, really thinking about the era that we are in now with extremely high female prices and corresponding beef and feeder calf prices, and just thinking about where we are from a big picture herd growth and expansion standpoint, thinking about the value of how we're developing these replacement females and the potential value that there will be, and really be focusing on some things that I think are important to be thinking about as we think about making some selection, some heifer retention and selection decisions, but then some heifer management practices as we go throughout the fall and into the winter, as we think about developing these females to give us the best chance for reproductive success and to keep these females in the herd for a number of years as we go forward. So really strategic heifer management and replacement heifer development in the light of where we are from a current broader beef cattle system and environment that we're currently in. So that's really the focus for my discussion later on Wednesday morning. And then Wednesday afternoon, we've got a couple of additional sessions there on the use of regenerative ranching and regenerative grazing. We've got some folks from the Noble Research Institute that will be presenting on some data and some discussions there. We've got a discussion on the use of technology and drones and the application for the use of that technology in our farming and ranching systems as well too. And so really that kind of wraps up the bulk of the beef cattle oriented discussions there for Wednesday afternoon. And then also to looking at later onto Thursday, we'll have a keynote session there Thursday morning, and some additional discussions with regards to weather and some climate forecasts will be provided, as well as some different information there. They'll also be provided on ag economics outlook, which will be certainly very informative when we think about just understanding where these market trends are and where we might be headed here later on this year. And then there'll be a lunch and learn program that'll wrap up the end of the day there Thursday, and that'll be at 11:30 on Thursday morning. And the focus for that will really be on tax planning and tax management and some important considerations for folks to be thinking about with regards to tax planning and various considerations with that topic. So I think a really nice balance again of topics that should be very applicable, very timely for our producers this year. And again, that we know that producers have a wide variety of interests, and we encourage folks to make time to join us for those few days in Kansas City. We hope that it's a time that works well for folks before we kind of get into the hustle and the bustle of the typical late summer, early fall season. And especially when you think about folks that are going to be making some important key management decisions, specifically on the cow-calf side of things as we move into the fall and into the winter. I think now a time here, mid-late summer, to pick up some good information to be thinking about as you go forward is a great time for that. So we hope that folks can join us, and we look forward to seeing everyone here next month in Kansas City.
What value, Jason, do you see for events like this?
Really, I think aside from the educational piece, is just the opportunity for folks to connect and get together. And one thing that I have certainly seen over the course of time is that anytime we have the opportunity to bring folks together, it allows for those conversations and those ideas to be brought forth. It allows for that engagement and that discussion and the side conversations and the side visits outside of the general educational sessions. I think are certainly valuable. That's often when most of the connections are made. A lot of the networking is done, and sometimes I see the value of these educational programs, not necessarily maybe in the true content of the information itself, although we always try to put it together such that there's good, solid information there for folks that you can always pick something up and learn something new. But certainly the value to just connect and engage with folks, network with folks in the industry, certainly a tremendous amount of value with that, and always one of those things that continually we see the value there, and we hope folks do as well too. And it's a challenge for folks to step away and to take time to come to programs. We certainly see that. But the idea with this one being that it's a pretty balanced program, has a good variety of topics available, and should be an attractive location for folks to come to. So we hope the folks can join us, and feel free to reach out to myself for further information. Cropsandcattle.com is the best way for folks to get more information on the program and register and details and everything there for the location, venue, registration information, everything's there online.
Jason, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Shelby, I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
That was K-State Extension cow-calf specialist Jason Warner. I will link the website in today's show notes on agtoday.net. We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be right back. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we conclude our Friday show with a weather update from K-State meteorologist Chip Redmond. Chip, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Chip, when we look at this past week, what precipitation did Kansas see?
Yeah, we've had multiple rounds of Mother Nature's fireworks that kind of coincided with man-made fireworks, and multiple rounds of storms. The first went through on July 3rd and into the morning of July 4th, widespread precipitation for a good chunk of the area. Obviously, the highest total is focused in the Northeast, which has kind of been the trend over the last several weeks. But we did see a complex of storms roll across a lot of northern and northwest Kansas, and even some down in the southeast, although much more limited. Highest amounts we saw were upwards of 3-4 inches in northeast Kansas. Northwest Kansas and north central saw as much as 1 to 2 inches, but areas that missed, especially southwest, south central, they didn't get any measurable precipitation in many places. And at least where rain did occur, it was more isolated in nature. When we look at departure normal and just how it compares this time of the year, we are starting to see our average precipitation fall in the eastern part of the state, whereas precipitation is still trending upward in central and western Kansas as they tend to get more monsoonal influence. And we'll probably talk about that in a couple of weeks, but we're not quite there yet with the weather pattern. But regardless, the only areas that were above normal is anyone who got over an inch to 2 inches of rain were at to above normal. But a large chunk of the state outside of those isolated areas in the northwest and north central and northeast, everyone else is drier than normal. So we look at temperatures this week. We did have a couple of 100-degree readings, especially in southwest Kansas. That's a sign of things starting to dry out. We're starting to lose that surface moisture we've had, and we're starting to just see that natural transition in summer of definitely much less widespread precipitation.
As we look ahead then, can we be expecting any precipitation with our hot weather?
Yeah, so over the course of the last 24, 48 hours or so, we've had several storm complexes traverse the state that did lead to some more precipitation. But those storms are basically tracking along a very diffuse frontal boundary, cold front that's pushed south. That's going to give us some cooler weather to start the weekend. But then by the time we get into late weekend, early next week, temperatures start to rebound again. We're going to see temperatures get back up in the 90s and approach 100 degrees, especially by the end of next week. Widespread 100 degrees, definitely possible. And very little precipitation as high pressure builds back in. And there's no moisture for that system to work with like we've seen before. We're not going to have thunderstorms kind of impinging on it. Talked about the ring of fire previously. That ring of fire is still there, but it's going to be way further north and way out of reach for Kansas. And that's going to result in some pretty rapid drying that's going to occur over the course of the next week and maybe even 2 weeks until we finally start to see maybe some more moisture get absorbed into that high and get some more monsoonal type storms, especially for the west. So warm and dry is going to be the trend. Folks that have missed out on recent precipitation like the southwest, south central, I think they're going to start hurting pretty bad just with the need of moisture. The surface moisture has really been depleted over the last week or two. Granted, there's going to be no wind. This is our weakest wind time of the year, so we don't see very much wind. But with the temperatures being pushed to where they are, the stagnant weather, abundant sun, and just impressively dry conditions, I think we're going to definitely start to see drought stress rapidly increase across the state.
With the increased drought concerns, any other concerns that tack on with that?
Yeah, we look at the long-term pattern with it. It's going to be a very stagnant pattern, likely into the mid part to late July. If we keep these dry conditions around, definitely could start to see some fire development. The good news is a lot of the wind doesn't occur, like I mentioned, during the summer, so we don't really see fires move quickly. Additionally, water supply are in pretty good shape across the state. And so irrigating, watering cattle, that kind of thing, should be pretty easy with pretty decent water storage at the surface right now. Now, as we go through the next 2 to 3 weeks with that, things might start to change a little bit. But definitely the start of those warmer, drier conditions that we've been talking about, that would peak somewhere in that middle summer time frame.
Chip, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Yep, thanks for having me.
That was K-State meteorologist Chip Redmond. That's all we have for you this week on Agriculture Today, but we'll be back with more for you on Monday.